NASCAR headed to the Monster Mile in Dover for the AutoTrader EchoPark Automotive 400. Yet another thing that has EchoPark attached to it, much like the restart zones. Let's have a bit of a chat about this race. To start off, well done by Denny Hamlin, a deserving winner. He got third in both stages and just stayed out of trouble when the likes of Chase Elliott, Christopher Bell, Alex Bowman, William Byron all ended up having trouble later on in the race. I mean, Bowman ended up getting third at the end of it all, but twice around for Christopher Bell, and in that second time around, it's out for William Byron as well, out for Noah Gragson. Yeah, some drivers were definitely luckier than others over the course of the weekend. As for the other top finishers, Chase Briscoe ran his teammate down quite well towards the end, and a light touch going onto the white flag lap was what ended up separating the two of them. Like I said, Bowman managed to get third at the end of the day, with lasted in fourth despite being held up by that final spin for Bell, with Ty Gibbs getting a top 5 and 5th ahead of Chase Elliott. And yeah, Elliott was someone who ran well, but things faded later on. Elsewhere in the top 10, good run from Bubba Wallace, gets him back into the top 10. I think it's the first time in a while that we've seen Wallace in the top 10, isn't it? Then you've got Blaney, then Buescher, then Keselowski, who he's had to have some good runs recently, much like Kyle Busch, who's just outside the top 10, as is Tyler Reddick. There are some drivers who need to have good luck, and it went well for them. Some drivers didn't necessarily need to have the good luck and ended up just finding bad luck. I mean, SVG was on pit road, lap 3 or something like that, with what he felt was a tyre going down. There are other elements of bad luck for the likes of Ross Chastain, who looked to have the right front go, coming out of turn 2. And elsewhere, there were some drivers who got some luck in terms of being able to get a lucky dog at the last moment, like Ty Dillon, or being caught the lap down, the likes of John Hunter Nemechek. Because what it does is it continues to complicate the playoff picture. I mean, we've still got a handful of races until the playoffs begin. We've got, 5 races? And right now, there are 4 drivers who are inside who haven't won. So it could be that you have 5 different winners and they all end up being on the outside looking in. Which would be wild for someone like Tyler Reddick, who's currently 156 points above the cut line. But even then, when you look at the other people who are up to the good, Alex Bowman 63 to the good, Chris Buescher 44, Bubba Wallace is back in, he's 16 to the good, now ahead of Preece. Kyle Busch is now 39 on the outside. Ty Gibbs in the 54 is 52 on the outside, whilst McDowell is 77 on the outside. Elsewhere, the next ones are Allmendinger, who's 80 out, Eric Jones, who's 89 out, and John Hunter Nemechek, who is 100 out. When you look at the races that are coming up, though, you could go, okay, Brickyard 400. Kyle Larson was good there last year. Iowa, ooh, that's going to be a bit of an interesting call. The Glen, you'd be foolish to bet against SVG. Last year's winner was Chris Buescher, though, so for Buescher, that might be a good omen. Richmond, as long as you don't have Austin Dillon doing what he did last year. And then the Daytona race that ends the regular season, which, that could be anyone's race. So what I would say is, if you are the likes of Tyler Reddick, you just need to get through the next 2 weeks and hope that nobody new wins. And then you're more or less safe. Meanwhile, the in-season challenge gets to its champions round for the Brickyard 400, and it's a tie-off. Dillon, the 32nd seed, the bottom seed coming into this bracket, up against Ty Gibbs, the only one who was in the top half coming into this round. Oh no, sorry, Nemechek was 12th, wasn't he? It looked quite likely until those final few laps when Gibbs was able to make the most out of those late race restarts that we could have had both drivers in the final coming from the bottom 10 spots. Reddick was 23rd seed, Gibbs was 6th, Nemechek was 12th, and Dillon was 32nd. But we could have this fairy tale story in which Ty Dillon, the 32nd seed, ends up winning the in-season challenge. And that would be good for calling, it would be good for Dillon himself, but at the same time, for Ty Gibbs, it looks like neither of them are going to make the playoffs this year. And Ty Gibbs, I've been saying, will pick up a win at some point. I don't expect it to be the in-season challenge, but a win's a win, eh? it'd be awesome if whoever wins this ends up winning at the Brickyard 400. But I don't think the scriptwriters are going to be doing anything for that this time around, are they? That said, speaking of things like direction, I watched the AltCast for this race, and I don't know what I was expecting, but it felt like, you know, a reaction live stream, but with alternative camera angles as well. It felt like there was a lot more that was riding on the in-season challenge. In fact, I decided to watch back the highlights from the main broadcast as well, because I was like, okay, what is the difference between the main broadcast and the AltCast? And the AltCast did not show Denny Hamlin cross the line for the win. It was all about the in-season challenge. Constantly you had ads for DraftKings Sportsbook. And even then, elsewhere you would see more and more ads. I think we had probably about 80% of the screen for the actual live feed. And they made some good use of, you know, putting that up towards the corner, because on the left-hand side you had the ticker, and the ticker was not overshadowing any of the camera angles. But the bottom left was a constant ad for DraftKings Sportsbook, and then along the bottom bar, sometimes they use it for information like you usually see on a NASCAR broadcast, but a lot of times it ended up just being an ad. And there were so many full-screen ads as well, and so many picture-in-picture ads, especially late in the race. I think we got quite spoiled when it came to the Prime broadcast, because they didn't do that as much on the Prime broadcasts. But yeah, it felt a bit weird. It was one of those ones that goes from the new central studio, so it wasn't necessarily at the track either. And yeah, I mean, in terms of who was doing it, Jeff Burton and Larry McReynolds, very good talent. When you look at the people they had on doing interviews, the likes of Greg Biffle, the likes of Matt Kenseth, it was really cool. But there was something that just didn't feel right. Such as, you know, when you have a last lap pass for the win, and you don't know there's been a last lap pass for the win because they're too busy focusing on the in-season challenge. I don't know. But what I do know is I want to know your thoughts and feelings, so please let them be known in the comment section down below. As always, folks, thank you so much for watching and joining, and until next time, it's bye for now.